Hello everybody, and welcome to the Touch and Go 1v1 League of Legends tournament. My name's Robo, and I'll be your caster for tonight. We are about to get underway momentarily with the first match. It'll be between Yoka and Mercedes AMG F1. The way this tournament's going to work is it's 1v1 style, classic that you've seen in LCS, LEC, and all the major Riot events. It'll be the first person to get a kill, the first person to get 100 CS, or the first tower taken. Recalling is allowed, and it'll be a blind pick for the champions. And without that, we will get underway in a moment. So this 1v1 tournament that will be going on is going to take place. There are 6 people overall that have signed up for it. First 2 matches are going on simultaneously right now. We are watching one of them between Yoka and Mercedes AMG F1. The winner of this will continue, and the winner of the opposite bracket as well will continue. This is a single elimination tournament, so if you lose, you're out. There are 2 people who got first round buys. The seeding in this tournament was randomly generated, so we are seeing the first match now. We already see Akali locked in here for Mercedes AMG F1. An assassin, pretty good in 1v1s usually. Yoka going for something a little bit more tanky, hovering that Ergot. Now keep in mind, this is blind pick, so neither side can see what has been selected as of yet by the other player. So we will see if Yoka does decide to end up going with the Ergot. A little bit beefier, but great single target damage as well with the Disdain. And Yoka will lock in Ergot. So it'll be Ergot a little bit tankier, a little harder for Akali to one-shot versus Mercedes AMG F1's Akali. So we will see how this goes as we transfer into the Howling Abyss. Now, there is a 3-minute spectator delay to prevent any type of stream sniping of the sort. So we will just wait for that delay to tick down. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with this style of 1v1 tournament, starting in ARAM, which is the single lane variation of the map, it's pretty similar to your normal Summoner's Rift, except each player starts with 1400 gold, and there are a couple of unique items called the Guardian items that aren't normally available on Summoner's Rift. Guardian items are generally a little bit stronger. They're similar to the Doran's items, for those of you that are familiar with those. They are the ARAM counterpart to those items. Each player will start with 1400 gold, and they also start at level 3. So each player can potentially have access to all of their abilities or put an additional point into one of their primary abilities if they so choose, which can makes it a little more interesting right from the get-go, rather than waiting the first early levels to wind down. Now, this matchup in particular, we have Akali versus Ergot. Akali, with her 5-point strike, her Q, has some pretty decent wave clear, but Ergot as well, with his passive, also has the wave clear for the farming, at least at distance. Mercedes AMG F1 on this Akali, though, is definitely going to want to be looking for some sort of all-in before Ergot can get the level 6, because the Ergot level 6 is a very strong execute, but at the same time, they can also wait until post level 6. Akali's ultimate is very strong for execution, the second part of it doing % missing health damage as well. But the Ergot are the Fear Beyond Death, able to execute at below 1/4 HP in the event that the Akali does go all in. Important thing to note as well, if the Ergot is able to get his dash off to lock onto the Akali as a target. Akali does have her Shroud, her W, that can give her a little bit of camouflage, give her invisibility, so that the Ergot can no longer target her, which should make it an interesting fight. The only issue here being Ergot is a little bit tankier than some of the other champions that could be selected. Definitely far tankier than the Akali. So it'll be definitely an interesting matchup to see as we load onto the Rift. And we see Exhaust and Ignite taken by both the Ergot and the Akali here. Definitely something better for the 1v1. No flash for the extra maneuverability. But we will see how both players are able to use these summoners.
Welcome to the Howling Abyss. Minions have spawned.
So we see here Mercedes AMG F1 getting a little bit of bush control, going for some early poke damage. The E into the Shroud to dash back after getting that 5-point strike off onto Yoka. But you can see both players taking one of the Guardian Knights. The Guardian Hammer for the Ergot, giving a little bit of life steal, versus the Guardian Horn for Akali, giving her a little bit of that extra tanky stats. But you can definitely see the HP difference here. Mercedes AMG again using that Shroud to try and maneuver around. Going for a little bit of aggressive trades, but walks into the Ergot W. Definitely comes out on top. 5-point strike doing a lot of damage there to Yoka on this Ergot. We see both players CSing really well. Both players with 6 and some large waves stacking up. Mercedes AMG F1 constantly going through these trades. 5-point strike just slowly chipping away at Yoka. Misses that one there, but isn't able to get the extra passive auto off. But just zoning away Yoka from this farm. Making sure that he's going to be a little bit behind in that CS race. Because keep in mind, it is also, if no kills happen, then it is the first player to 100 CS. We see both players level 5 here, about to get their ultimates online. Mercedes AMG F1 just leveling up now. Yoka still only level 5. Mercedes AMG F1 dashing in, getting that poke damage off. As this wave is just going to crash under the tower. So Yoka has to be very careful that he farms it up. Mercedes AMG F1 emoting a little. Maybe trying to get a little bit of a mental edge. But Yoka does proc that bone plate. It'll be very important for these upcoming trades. We see Yoka is slightly ahead in that CS race, even after being pushed away a little bit at the start. Akali missing the Shuriken flip, now just resigned to farming for now. Yep, grabbing that health relic. A great dash, pulls the Akali out of the Shroud, and we see the ult go off, and there it is, the execute that we were waiting for from Yoka. A great execute from the Ergot, and that will be round 1 going to Yoka. And now we will transition out of this match as we wait for the next one. So stick around, we will be back. Alright everyone, welcome back. So, Yoko, having won that first match, will be moving on to this second round against Phantom. And on the other side of the bracket, Slane was able to defeat his opponent Hurricane and is now moving on to face Mr. Cursor in his second round. So, we are now going to get underway. So, as we saw last time, Yoko picking up that Ergot, able to secure the win against Mercedes-AMG F1. Phantom, able to get a first round bye after the random seeding. So we haven't seen anything from him yet. Let's see if Yoko sticks with the Ergot or if he tries something different. Yoko hovering that Karma. Karma, more of a poke champion, but having shields, having an inbuilt root, and having an inbuilt heal as well with the Mantra W. Karma, a little bit different than some other champions. She starts the game with her ultimate Mantra, which is just an empowerment for her basic abilities. Meanwhile, we see Phantom going for the set designed for the 1v1 type matchups, but usually against bruisers. So it'll be interesting to see how Phantom is able to play this set against Yoko's Karma. Range wants to stay at range as well as continually shield himself for it. Set has a few tools in his kit that'll help him to gap close against the Karma. Q giving him a speed up, try and run towards the Karma. Facebreaker as well, the E, able to pull Karma together, get a stun off if he's able to space it with minions. And once again, we will be waiting for the 3-minute spectator delay before we load in. So, Set, like we saw in the previous ability, or in the previous match, does have an ultimate ability. His ultimate Showstopper, able to effectively dunk the enemy champion. Immobilizes them, carries them with Set as he goes, and does a large amount of damage on the slam down, as well as a slow to keep them in place. Set as well is an interesting champion for these 1v1s. He has a lot of inbuilt health regeneration, so after taking some of the poke damage that Yoko is going to deal, we'll be able to slowly heal it up over time. In addition, his passive, combined with his W, which is his Haymaker, gives him a shield as well as does a lot of damage based on how much damage he's taken recently. So he can potentially deal a lot of burst damage to this Karma that Karma will not be expecting. On the other side of the matchup though, Karma, like we said before, wants to stay at range. Use the range advantage that she has to just continually poke down Phantom. Try and do more damage than Phantom can regenerate with his passive and just slowly whittle him down. Once again, though, starting at level 3, same rules as before. First kill, first to 100 CS, or first tower. So we'll see if Yoko able to get another kill early, or if this one will go a little bit longer, or even potentially in favor of Phantom, getting a kill or able to get the tower with a CS. So this matchup that we see here for this 1v1 of Karma versus Set is actually one that has sort of risen up more recently with the idea of tank Karma top lane. So we see this one on Summoner's Rift as well, occasionally. Let's see how it translates into the 1 versus 1 matchup. Without Karma, without the team that she's usually picked for, tank Karma top lane being especially good in those later game team fights to heal and shield. But in a 1 versus 1 situation, especially against a Set, we'll see how they do. And we are loading onto the Rift momentarily. So, once again, we see Guardian items coming out from both sides. Set going with the Guardian's hammer. So, giving a little bit of that tanky stats, a little bit of damage, as well as a little bit of lifesteal. Meanwhile, Yoka on the Karma going for the Guardian's orb. One other thing that we see here that we didn't see last time, Set has Flash, so that'll also give him an additional gap closing tool. Meanwhile, Yoka on that Karma took Exhaust instead, just like we saw in the first match. Better for this 1v1, but doesn't give an escape in the event that Set's able to get on top.
Minions have spawned.
We see as well, Yoka definitely wanted to go for this sustain here, going Karma with Grasp. With Grasp, every time you auto when you have a stack Grasp up, heals you for a little bit and increases your maximum HP. Set, however, Phantom, taking that Hail of Blades to try and get as much damage in as possible. We already see Yoka not holding anything back, already poking out Phantom, getting that first Grasp proc, but Phantom, with a great face breaker, pulls Yoka in and able to do a lot of damage. And there we see the Haymaker chunking out Yoka, stepping up a little bit too far, and Phantom punishes quite well. Yoka getting another one of those Grasp procs, walking up again. Phantom missing that face breaker, and it does take a little bit of chip damage for it. Yoka now back on top of the HP margin. Just constantly harassing this Set. Set trying to do what he can, playing in the bushes, trying to get as much CS as he can. Yoka pushing in the wave, and there we see the Mantra Q doing a lot of damage. The tether goes out, gets the root onto Phantom underneath the tower, and we see Yoka just constantly poking out, like we said. More autos, more Grasp procs, just continually healing him up and making him tankier too. Phantom just sitting back, trying to let his HP regen as Yoka is pushing in this wave. The wave is now crashing under tower, and Yoka standing in the middle of the wave, making sure Phantom can't get any of these minions for free, taking a lot of poke damage as he tries to last hit these minions. We see another Q go out from the Karma. Another Facebreaker attempt by Phantom, not going to find its mark. The Mantra Q from the Karma hits the minions, not able to get that poke damage out. But we see it. The CS gap is slowly starting to grow. Yoka already at 18 with Phantom only at 11. The poke from Yoka definitely taking its toll. And we see Phantom here, down to quarter HP, getting a little bit low. Meanwhile, Yoka on this Karma still very close to full HP. Phantom going for that health relic, trying to get a little bit of HP back. And we see him getting in his mid-game workout. But Yoka stepping forward, taking away Phantom's own health relic from him. Another Mantra Q, some great poke damage on Phantom. See some emotes going out. Yoka slowly firing away. Phantom just playing really far back, trying to see what he can do. The flash in for the Facebreaker, and we see the Q go out. Ignites down from both sides. Showstopper coming in. The exhaust down onto Phantom, who's 1 HP, but so is Yoka. Yoka has the range advantage. One more auto will do it, and Yoka will take the next match against Phantom. Some great stuff from both players, super close with the exhaust. Able to negate that Haymaker damage from Phantom. And we will get right into the final match here in a moment. Stick around. Alright everyone, welcome back. We are now here for the finals. Slane winning his side of the match as well. So now we see Yoka and Slane here in the final of the 1v1 tournament brought to you by Touch and Go Productions. This one will be a best of 3. So if one player doesn't win, if one player has to win 2 out of the next 3 matches. First player to win 2 matches will win. So we will see how these matches end up going. We've seen a little bit from Yoka and how his playstyle is with the Karma in that last game against Phantom, as well as in the first game, the Ergot. So we've seen a couple different styles, one more poke-oriented, one a lot more engage-oriented, wanting to fight. This time, hovering the Senna. Definitely going to go for a slower match if he goes to the Senna, wanting to farm up and maintain that range. Pretty similar to the Karma. Senna having a large amount of range that she can play with that only increases as she collects her souls from her passive. As well as having an inbuilt heal on her Q, so able to keep herself alive, and as well the Shroud of Black Mist, her E, helps to negate any of the longer range poke damage that might come her way. Meanwhile, Slane yet to hover in, only a few seconds left. We'll go for the Kaisa. So we'll see a classic AD carry matchup here. Kaisa a lot better at the all-in versus Senna, but does get outranged. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But both of these champions take a little bit to get going, usual. Kaisa, with her passive, as she gets more items, more attack damage or attack speed or ability power, they will upgrade her basic abilities that they'll do increased damage or have additional effects. In the case of her E, her supercharge, it will turn her invisible in addition to its normal effects of giving her a short dash and an attack speed boost. So each of these champions looking like they're going to want to farm up, scale up as we go. But we will definitely see how it turns out. Another thing to note with this particular matchup, if one side steps a little too far forward, both of these champions are a lot more squishy, meaning that they can take a lot of damage. They don't have very much survivability if a fight does engage. Slane on this Kai'Sa, Kai'Sa's level 6 puts her as close to the Senna as she wants to be, and gives her a shield for an all-win. So it'll be interesting to see how Senna is able to escape from that once level 6 hits. Meanwhile, Senna, having a couple tools of her own, her W will create a route after it hits either a minion or a champion in an AoE. So able to keep the Kaisa at range. Potentially, that's what Yoka will rely on in the event that Kaisa does dash in with that Killer Instinct. Additionally, the Senna ultimate, massive railgun, effectively, that also gives a shield. But it'll be interesting to see how Yoka is able to use that in this fight, especially with Slane being on this Kaisa, having a little bit of mobility between the ultimate and the E. We will see how it goes. Rules are the same as before. It's first kill, first to 100 CS, or the first tower. We'll be getting underway here momentarily. It will still take place on the Howling Abyss, like the other matches that we've seen so far. So we see Slane going for that snowball and the flash, wanting to get on top of Yoka as soon as possible and with as many tools as possible to make sure that the Senna cannot escape. Yoka going for the same summoners that we've seen him stick to, the exhaust and the ignite. If Slane does dash in, just has to be very careful about that exhaust. Exhaust removing a percentage of the damage that the champion is able to deal, as well as slowing them down to prevent them from escaping. Snowball, however, is a much shorter cooldown than either the exhaust or the ignites. It'll be interesting to see how Slane is able to use that as advantage, potentially bait out one or two of those summoner spells. And we see mirrored items from both of these players here. The Guardian's Hammer with Cloth Armor and triple health potions. Health potions giving a little bit of that extra regeneration. Cloth Armor in particular, reducing the physical damage that either champion takes. However, it's important to note, both champions have a little bit of mixed damage. Kaisa in the form of her Prey Seeker, her W, and Senna as well, in her W, is a little bit of magic damage. And we already see some very aggressive trades here with Slane. From the Halo Blades, able to proc the passive, get a lot of damage down, but Yoka is trading back, especially with that Grasp of the Undying. Able to heal up for a lot and hits the Q. Misses the W though onto Slane. So Slane down a little bit in HP now. Yoka pushing forward though. The snowball in for Slane, but the exhaust down, flashback out, but the ignite's on him, and Yoka with a very quick kill on Slane here in this first round. Some very quick fighting. Slane perhaps getting a little too over aggressive, not playing around with those summoner spells, and Yoka doing a great job handling that early trade in from Slane. And now we'll be back momentarily with round 2. Alright everyone, welcome back. Once again, Yoka able to take the first round from Slane in this final. So we will see if he's able to do the same here in this next one. So Slane now 1 down in this best of 3 match. So we'll see if he's able to turn it around here. So, we see Yoka already hovering this Pantheon here. Oh, switching to Caitlyn. So, we'll see what he ends up going with. Yoka having a little bit more of a breather here. He has that buffer of 1 game, having won that first round in this best of 3. So, we'll see what he ends up deciding to go with. He's currently hovering that Nasus. Nasus, pretty similar to some of the other champions that we've seen so far, scales up really nicely with farm. Key difference here being though, Nasus is a melee champion versus what we've seen a lot of so far in the ranged champions that we've been playing. So we'll see if he does end up going with Nasus and how Slane, which champion Slane will pick and how he'll respond to it. Nasus having the Wither on his W, very difficult to play around, especially if you rely on an auto-attacking based champion. Slane here having a couple seconds. Hovering the Nico here. So we'll see if that's what he ends up going with. And it is. So, Nico having that ranged advantage that we were thinking of before. Going to probably try and poke out Yoka on this Nasus. And once again, we will be waiting for the spectator delay before we load in, but in the meantime, I can talk a little bit about these two champions. Nasus with his Siphoning Strike, his Q, whenever he kills a minion, grants him a stack, or a couple of stacks. Each of these stacks increases the base damage of his Q to make it stronger as time progresses. And he never loses these stacks as the game continues. So Yoka on this Nasus is probably going to want to try and stack up as much as he can, get as many minion kills with his Q as he can. Neeko, on the other hand, forced lane, has that ranged advantage, especially with Neeko's passive, does a bit of extra damage every third auto attack, and with the Neeko Q as well, does a lot of damage if Yoka is unable to get himself out of the AoE from that Q. Neeko as well, having a root built into the kit, especially detrimental for Nasus, helping to guarantee some of that extra poke damage. So, you might see Slane try and maneuver that to his advantage. Yoka definitely going to have to be careful of that. And we'll see if Slane takes a similar approach to what he has before. Neeko, once she hits level 6, has access to her Pop Blossom, which is a large AoE that does a lot of damage as well as gives her a large HP shield, which can definitely turn a team fight, or to turn a fight between these two if he's able to get off a great one. Nasus has his ultimate as well, which makes him grow in size, gain HP, and reduces the cooldown of his Q. So Yoka may be able to use that to help him survive, as well as to help chase down Slane. The Wither on Nasus is a very detrimental slow. Gets close to 99% once you get the ranks up in that towards the end. And Wither, unlike most other abilities that have slows, increases over time rather than decreasing. So it especially is very painful to try and play around. Nasus' Spirit Fire as well reduces armor. So he's able to get the Wither and the Spirit Fire down onto Slane's Neeko. Will be painful if Yoka is able to get onto Neeko, but Slane probably going to try and keep Yoka at arm's distance. Once again, it is the same rules as we've seen before. First kill, first emergency S, first tower, starting at level 3. And as well, starting with that 1400 gold. And we'll be loading in momentarily. So we see here, as we load in, Slane still holding on to that flash, but taking the Ignite this time. Try and get a little bit of that extra kill pressure. Ignite, particularly good against champions that have healing abilities. Nasus, the Siphoning Strike, does heal him when he uses it. In addition to that heal cut, it does slight damage over time and grants you vision. So if one of the champions tries to duck into a bush, the other will be able to see it. And here we see a couple surprising rune choices. Yoka on the Nasus taking the Arcane Comet as opposed to one of the other runes that you more traditionally see on Nasus. Arcane Comet is particularly good in these sort of 1v1 matchups where Nasus is expected to get poked out. The Arcane Comet does that little bit of extra poke damage every time that Nasus throws out his E. And we see here the Guardian's Orb from both players. So Guardian's Orb traditionally more of a mage item, and we see it on Nasus here from Yoka. That'll guarantee him a lot of extra damage on his E. And as you see, just one E, able to take Slane down by a decent chunk of HP. So perhaps Yoka was prepared for this, had this idea in mind of how he wanted to deal with a potentially ranged matchup. Slane, once again, taking more damage from that Spirit Fire. You see, throwing out the Q, getting that bone plating off of that. Bone plating is great in these potential fights and landing a root, getting more damage off. The Ignite proc, and Yoka already down to half HP. But we see the Wither go out onto Slain, slowing him down, but Yoka not going to follow up. It's another Spirit Fire, but he's getting poked down himself by Slain. Both players here are going to grab that health relic, try and heal a little bit back up, and have the potions running. Slain with a flash forward and the Ignite, hitting the root and the Q and getting that last auto attack. Slain able to take down Yoka here, tying up the series. It's now 1-1 here, and we'll see what happens as we go to game 3. Some great long range damage coming out from Slain. Yoka on this Nasus, not able to keep up with the poke that Nico provides. But we will be back in less than a minute with the final match in the series. Alright everyone, welcome back to the final matchup of the series. Yoka and Slain each taking a game off of this best of one in the Touch and Go Productions 1v1 tournament. We'll see which player comes out on top. We'll be getting underway in a moment. So, Slain picking up that most recent win, pulling out the Nico, with giving a great ranged advantage from both the E and the Q, and just able to take down Yoka in a large amount of long-range burst damage. So we'll see if he tries to take a similar approach. We saw something kind of similar with Kai'Sa, but Kai'Sa needing to get a little bit closer, needing to commit a little bit more than the Nico. And Yoka winning that first match as well. The Senna against the Kai'Sa matchup. So we'll see what ends up happening here. And Yoka locking in Tristana. Tristana's in a great spot right now as on the Summoner's Wrecked, and we'll see if that transfers over into the 1v1 situation. Tristana having some great gap closing ability as well as high burst damage. The rocket jump in, able to gap close or to escape as well. And particularly the Tail of Blades, able to stack up her E, which as she autos a champion that has her E placed on top of it, gradually increases the damage that it does when it finally explodes. So we'll see if Slain, what he ends up going with, and how he'll be able to respond to this Tristana. Slain sticking with what he knows on the Nico, won in the last game, so we'll see if he's able to pull off another win in this final game. The Nico, with the root, is able to sort of keep Tristana at bay, but Tristana, unlike Nasus, is both ranged and has some potential gap closing abilities. So both of these champions are going to be looking for some high burst trades in effect. Tristana able to rocket jump in and potentially 100-0 the Nico, but Nico able to do quite the same thing once she has access to that Pot Blossom. There are no special rules that we're going to see from this final match. It's the same as it's always been. First kill, first 200 CS, and first tower on the Howling Abyss, 1400 gold, level 3. Same things that we've seen before. But Slain with that Nico, as we saw last time, able to get the kill very early without even really needing the access to the Pot Blossom. But Tristana, not quite in the same position Nasus is, having a lot more of that long range. It's going to be a little bit harder for Slane to try and land some of these poke abilities onto the Tristana. Yoka, however, he is going to be looking for some of these early engages. Doesn't quite need to wait for the Buster Shot that unlocks at level 6. Does have the potential to go in at level 3 because that is what you're starting with, and Tristana has some very strong early damage. Tristana, as well, as she levels up, only gains more range. Similar to Senna, but Tristana does not need to collect any of the souls, just gains a little bit of range every time she levels up. So we'll see if this game goes for a longer one, or if we see some more of that super fast action that we've seen in these first 2 games. Both of these players really loving to fight. We'll see if that continues. One other interesting thing to note, particularly about the Nico route, is when Nico throws out her route, if it goes through a minion or if it were on Summoner's Rift, another champion, the route increases in duration, which allows her to get a little bit more of that longer range poke damage off onto Tristana. So we'll see if Slane is able to utilize that, just like he has previously, to try and maximize the damage that he's able to get off onto Tristana. And now we're loading in onto the Howling Abyss here in a moment. Slane taking very similar runes and summoner spells to what he took last time, taking the Ignite for those high damage trades with the Flash and the Ignite as the Electrocute, for the high damage trades. Yoka, again, taking the same summoners that he always has, the Exhaust and the Ignite, served him well up until this point. And taking the Hail of Blades. So, like we said before, Tristana, Hail of Blades, able to stack up her E very quickly to get a lot of this early burst damage out.
Welcome to the Howling Abyss.
And we see once again Guardian's Orb and Cloth Armor here from Slane on this Nico. Little bit of more survivability. Meanwhile, Yoka going for all the damage, taking the Guardian's Hammer, which gives a little bit of lifesteal, and the extra long sword for as much damage as possible. We see already the rocket jump in from Yoka, getting stacks on the E off. The Exhaust and the Ignite already down. Slane flashing out, but Yoka getting that last auto, and it's like we said, Tristana potentially not even having to wait beyond level 3, and we see it right there. Yoka knowing exactly the damage he needs. The rocket jump in with the explosive charge down, plus the Hail of Blades stacked the explosive charge super quickly, able to take down Slane, who wasn't even able to respond, really, is what it looked like. Yoka still almost full HP after that. So, a great job, and congratulations to Yoka here in this 1v1 tournament brought to you by Touchstone Productions. And so, that will sum it up. Thank you very much to everyone who came out to watch the stream tonight for this 1v1 tournament. Some quick reminders. April 17th, mark your calendars. That's the day of the concert that's going to happen here on campus. More details will follow coming up, but be on the lookout for that. That will be all for tonight. Thank you very much for stopping out. My name's been Robo. Take care.